Hello programmers, welcome back to our Circuit Python lessons on the Circuit Playground Express Bluefruit edition. So what we're going to do here is we're going to learn how to turn off the lights, we're going to work with the time library, specifically we're going to learn how to use the time.sleep command in order to make our program pause for a period of time, and we'll also learn about the while true loop, which will allow us to continue to execute code over and over again. And then we'll have a School Spirit challenge where we try to get the CPXb to flash in a pattern that would be similar to a chant that you might give at a sporting event, like, "We are BC." So let's get at it. Hello programmers, so when we left off last, we had our Circuit Playground Express Bluefruit showing an aqua color. And I've got my CPXb plugged in. If you take a look at what I'm showing here, you can actually unplug your CPXb. All the power goes out, but if I plug it back in, what happens? Well, it's going to turn aqua, and the reason it does that is because it starts running the code again from line 1 all the way to line 7. Now, it's actually done running. The code is done, but the last thing I did was light up all of my lights. I filled in the pixels with the color aqua, and it's going to remain filled in as long as I've got power to my CPXb. Now think about this. If I wanted to, after showing the lights in aqua, turn all the lights off, what color do you think I could pass in to get all the lights to go off? Let's give this a try. We're going to grab this line here and we're going to change the colors. We're going to put another pixels.fill right underneath, and it's going to be 0, 0, and 0, which means no red, no green, and no blue. By the way, if you ever have a hard time saving, remember you can just double click on code.py, which is the file name, on the tab in the upper left hand corner. Make sure that you're in CircuitPy. You want to make sure that you name your code code.py, and that will save it. Then just click replace to save over our existing code.py, and the CPXb shuts off. Now I'm going to click on save again and watch what happens. This is going to execute the code.py code, and we get a quick flash in there. Now that flash was so quick, what if you wanted it to wait a little bit of time before it went ahead and turned things off? Let's suppose we wanted it to wait 1 second. Well, there's actually a function that we can leverage in CircuitPython. It's called the sleep function, and it's inside a library called a time. Now, we import all of our libraries at the top of our code so that anything that we import will be available for the rest of the code. So right under where it says import NeoPixel, I'm going to press return, and I'm going to type in import time, and that will bring in my sleep function. Now previously we referred to the NeoPixel library using dot notation, and then we called this NeoPixel command afterward that set up our lights. Here we're going to type in time and then use dot notation to refer to the sleep function. Now sleep just takes one parameter. It's however many seconds you want it to pause. 1.0 will pause for an even 1 second. Then we'll click on the save button and watch what happens. It flashes on for 1 second. That's great. What would happen if we change this down to 0.5? Click on save. And it flashes quicker. That's just half a second. Now you might decide, hey, I want this to continue to flash and flash and flash. Is there a way to make it continue to loop as long as my CPXb has power? And in fact, there is. Most programmers that write code for their CPXb want the CPXb to constantly be running in the background because it's waiting to react to some kind of inputs. Maybe for the user to touch it or for a button to be pressed. We're going to have a portion of our code repeat itself forever, flashing forever, and not stopping at line 12. And the way that we do this is before I change any of the colors in here, so right after I set up my pixels up top, by my lights, I'm going to type in this line. I'm going to say while, all in lowercase, space, and then a capital T, RUE, and then a colon. So while true. Now the while true loop says, hey, execute everything after the colon that's going to be indented as long as, I know this sounds weird, true is true. That essentially means execute it forever. It's an infinite loop. Now the reason why the while loop exists is it's possible for us to put in some math in here to evaluate if a condition is true or false. But by saying while true, true is always true, so it's just going to continue to do that infinite loop. Now watch what happens when we press enter right after the colon. We have a line that's indented here. It's indented by 4 characters, and we want to make sure that we use that 4-character indent because Python is going to only repeat everything over and over again as long as it's indented at the same level right after the colon. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to backspace in front of pixels here until I get the indent. And I want to indent everything else as well. If I don't, what's going to happen is it's only going to process what's executing here indented, and it's actually never going to get to 10 and 11. It's just going to say while true to 9, while true to 9, while true to 9. So I'm going to indent these guys here too, and I could press the space bar 4 times like this. But even better, what I typically do is I'll backspace over, bringing the bottom statement to the line above it, and then press enter. It automatically does an indentation for me, and I'll do the same thing on the line below. So what we should have happening is our code will begin to execute from the top. We'll import our 3 libraries, we'll set up our lights, and then we hit the repeating while true loop. The very first thing it's going to do is show the lights aqua. We'll pause for half a second, then it will turn the lights off, and then it will repeat again. So let's click on save and see if we see what we expect. Hey, we're not seeing this half-second pause. We're just seeing the aqua lights flash very, very quickly. Well, what we're seeing here is we're seeing the lights go on. The lights are remaining on for half second. Then the pixels are filled to 0, which means the lights are turned off. And there's no waiting at all happening here. We're just going back and we're turning the lights back on again. So that's why we don't even see this half second here. We're turning it on for a half second, flick off, turn them on for a half second, flick off, turn on for a half second, flick off, instantly turning them on for half a second. So think about this. What are we missing if we want the lights to be off for half a second and on for half a second? Well, we can just grab this line here that says time sleep 0.5, put it in at the end, and now we're saying turn the lights on to aqua, wait half a second, turn the lights off, and repeat. So now watch what happens when we click on save. And we see what we wanted originally, which is a flash with half a second in between. We're doing the pause for lights to be on and the pause after the lights are off. Good. All right, folks, this is the School Spirit Challenge. So at my university, Boston College, we have, during sporting events, a chant that says, "We are BC. We are BC." So you can see we say very quickly, "We are," and then we have a bit of a pause there for 2 beats, and then we say BC, and then we repeat it over and over again. Well, I want you to use your CPXb for School Spirit as well. I want you to flash the first of your school colors, once for we, once for R, pause, and then flash twice again, this time in your other school color for your school name or your mascot. We are BC. We are BC. So try to get it to look roughly like this. You can see that we've got more of a pause in between the 2 color flashes. And give this a shot, and then I'll show you my answer afterward, and you can see how that matches up with yours. So the first of my school colors is maroon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the school colors to, the closest that I got to maroon was 128, 0, and 0. You're not going to see perfect matches between the color numbers that you'll see online and what you can produce in the CPXb. So I'm going to start to say we, and then I'm going to have a little pause in between here. So the pause time that I thought worked in between turning the lights off, so I want to keep the lights on. I wanted to keep them on for 0.15 seconds. You might have come up with a slightly different number. But what this is going to do is it's going to turn it on, and then what I want to do is I want to flash them off and keep them off for a little bit of time. The number that I thought worked really well here was 0.1 second, and then I'm going to go ahead and have, so this is for the we, and I'm going to add an inline comment in here. So I'm going to say we right here, and then it blinks on, and then I'll say off, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here for R. And it's critically important to make sure that everything is indented at the same level. If it's not, our code won't work. And I'm going to blink on and keep them for 1 second, and then I'm going to turn them off. Now, when you think about how long you want to turn them off, you're going to say, we are, and then we're going to turn off for a couple of beats. So the time that I thought really worked well there was about 1.25 seconds. So if I say time sleep 1.25 here, pause off for 1.25 seconds. Then what I want to do is I want to flash my gold colors, because my school colors are maroon and gold, just like Gryffindor. And I thought a nice gold was 255, 213, 0. And what you're not seeing is there was a lot of iteration where I was experimenting with different numbers to try to get the colors right. I was also experimenting with different times to get the pausing right. But my timing for my gold colors is actually going to be identical to what I had for my maroon colors. We are BC. And so I'm going to just copy what I've got up here. So I'll paste this in. And what I have here, again, you want to make sure that everything lines up. So this is going to say, this is going to be B, and then pause off. And then this one will be C, and then pause off. But I want to make sure that this is now going to be 255, 213, and 0. And one more thing I'm going to want to do as well is I am going to want to pause when I'm done after the BC piece. So I don't want to go like we are right away afterward, but BC, and then there's a pause before we are. And the time of that pause is going to be the same, time sleep 1.25. By the way, you can see that I'm adding some blank lines in here just to make my code a little more readable. So this is we are, and then we've got our pause, and then BC. and then we've got our other pause, and then we're going to loop back because all of these lines are indented the same 4 spaces. So now if I click on save and give this a shot, we see we are BC. We are BC. So now we know how to use the time library, the sleep command, how to shut off the lights with all zeros, and how to use the while true loop. And we showed our school spirit. Hope you're feeling good about your Python skills and your school. Keep at it.